Hey folks, so today we're going to tackle a topic in paper 2 that I don't know about you, but my students and my colleague students sometimes struggle with this. It's about the economy of the UK and how we've moved into this post-industrial phase. So I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible. All right, so start by just drawing a kind of a big arrow. Okay, this is going to kind of represent time. Okay, and what's happened over time. So there are 4 kind of economies, if you like. There's the primary sector. We'll just write them all in quickly. We've got primary, secondary, tertiary is next. Tertiary, and then the last one is quaternary. Now, yeah, the kind of big keywords, if you're not super sure on these, just know that you do need to get them committed to memory because it does pop up. It's one of those things that pops up in the exam fairly frequently. So these are our 4 types, okay? Now, currently, I'd say the UK is kind of here and here mainly. Okay, so a lot of our economy, okay, let's put pound signs in there. All right, it's all about money. A lot of our economy is built around the tertiary and quaternary sector currently. And in the past, we were obviously down here in the primary sector. Let me show you what I mean by these sectors. So, for instance, let's give an example. Okay, mining for oil. Okay, you don't see that happening. You don't see that happen very much in the UK anymore. You would see it in the North Sea, but you don't, it's not something we visualise very often. Whereas if you think about Nigeria, for example, lots and lots of drilling for oil there makes, a big old mess, and yeah, it's quite a messy job. It's quite low skill, low pay. So that's supposed to be an oil drill, an oil drip. There we go. So what happens once the oil comes out the ground? Well, then you've got jobs refining the oil. Okay, and that is a process, a big process, to turn it into something usable. For instance, if you have a petrol or diesel car, the oil's going to go into the car and be used in the car. So the jobs in the secondary sector, they're going to be better pay. So in fact, we can put like a little pound sign here, and a bigger one there, and then an even bigger one there, and then quaternary, the biggest pound sign, because that has the most money. Okay, you're going to get the biggest paid jobs in that sector. So mining for oil, low pay, okay, low skill. All right, primary sector jobs, farming, cutting down trees, deforestation, all those sorts of things, low pay, low skills. Now, secondary is when you're processing, okay, so you're going to get better pay, but still quite low skills. Not hugely low, but it's still lower than other places, okay? I sometimes use the example of chopping down trees. So you might have primary as, logging, secondary might be turning it into a table, tertiary might be selling the table, but then I struggled with quaternary for that one. So we're going to use mining for oil instead. So mining for oil is a bit like farming. Refining the oil is a little bit better paid, but it's still quite a low in terms of skills. But then another thing you can do with oil is you can turn it into goods. So let's say they've refined the oil and they've turned it into a plastic bottle. Okay, drawing a drinking bottle here. Okay, now let's say this bottle has been made from oil, and I'm just going to put a for sale. Okay, by selling that bottle, or lots of bottles, you are going to find that people have higher pay in sales jobs, yeah, and arguably slightly higher skills, okay, because they'll be customer facing. So we're starting to see people being paid a bit more, working in that kind of service sector, and as well as this sort of sales sector. A lot of jobs are in this sector. Now, Quaternary is very different. This section, in the UK anyway, is mainly based around finance. We make a lot of money in the UK from money. So profits from this company that makes bottles can then be reinvested to make more money and more profit. And the other section is research. Okay, so research into, let's say, non-plastic alternatives. Okay, so it might be looking at seaweed, for example, I know is being used to make a kind of plastic variant. So, e.g., researching non-plastic alternatives. Okay, and this is conducted in labs, and you definitely need to be highly skilled, and you're often very well paid. Okay, highly skilled and arrow up for high pay. Okay, so hopefully that kind of gives you a rough idea of what those sectors are about. And they're not all about oil and bottles and research, but in fact, let's put it into, we've got the UK, haven't we? Let's put it into some case studies. So the UK is currently making a lot of its money from finance, like I mentioned. This happened really, started around the 1980s. But the finance sector, particularly London, is huge. But we're also really big in things like science. Okay, we have lots of science parks. And we look at things like fibre optics, amongst other things. Pharmaceuticals, huge amounts of money in pharmaceuticals. Okay, so it gives you a kind of clue where we're making our money in the economy. All right, whereas if we give another example, I'm just trying to think where would be quite good. I would say Nigeria, because that's a case study that we use a lot in my classroom. It's mining for oil, it is refining the oil, and it also has quite a big sales part, although they do export quite a lot of raw materials, so they're probably slightly more around the secondary. So let's write it down here because I've run out of room. So Nigeria does things instead of finance. Not that they don't have finance, they do have finance, but it's just not the biggest part of their economy. That's growing. They really want to grow that section. But yeah, at the moment, it's things like, the manufacturing industries. Okay, they make tyres for cars and goods like toasters and microwaves, e.g. tyres, microwaves, clothes. Okay, yeah, so they are going to be just that little bit less well paid than you'll see in those tertiary and quaternary sectors. Okay, is there anything else I want to show you here? All I would add, and it's just a small thing, but if you're thinking at this for the north-south divide, it was around the 1980s that Margaret Thatcher came into power, and she basically closed down coal mines. So we were doing this. We were mining for coal. We had huge coal mines, big industries in the north, and basically, yeah, Margaret Thatcher, who was the Prime Minister, she closes the coal mines, and that basically meant that the UK, the north of the UK, suddenly really struggled. Okay, and the unemployment became very high. But then she also did help sort of push the finance sector in the south. So it's it's a bit of a mixed bag, that one. But I just think that's quite important that, you know, the UK is now here, but we were here, as in things have changed quite a lot. And the north of the UK is really pushing forward now with science and pharmaceuticals and finance, so they are catching back up. So hope that's helpful.